Alright, we are getting started now for our weekly live show. This is for the week of February 23rd, 2020, last show of February. Welcome to our discussion on game design and industry topics. I am Josh Weiser. Joining me, my co-host, is indie game developer Sharky. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I wish I was doing better, but, we always do.
Yeah.
At least I hope.
Didn't get much sleep last night. My allergies are at the point where they're keeping me up, so hopefully I'll get a good night's sleep tonight. But if I do fall asleep during the cast, you can just rant for like an hour on game design, right?
Yeah. I got a rant prepared. I'm going to rant about the indie genre.
Alright, good. That should put me asleep, too.
Keep you asleep.
Yep. But we got some very interesting topics and, of course, news to discuss, as always. And I also need to get more of my allergy shots. Yep. If the allergies don't stop me, the get good nightmares will. But, I guess games that I've been playing, I've been really enjoying World of Horror, which my gut is telling me this is going to be a really great game when it's released. Kind of the same thing I had with Slay the Spire and Dead Cells before it. I guess for you, Shark, what have you been playing?
Now, lately I've been going back to one of my old tried and trues, Oxygen Not Included. But, there's been some games that I've been wanting to play. Well, we played a little bit of J Ships and Beats the other day on stream. I definitely want to go back to that. I've been playing a little bit of Legend of Heroes, going back to it, trying to 100% the first game so I can go to the next. I've been playing a good bit of Legends of Keepers too. I got the supporters pack for like $5 a few days ago. It didn't add too much, but to be honest, there was already a lot there, and what it did add was pretty meaningful. I think.
Yeah. And I know you're very excited about that one, and yeah, I think for me, my problem is I have so many games. I have like early access and things to look at that. It's hard for me to focus on a game that I know isn't done yet. And I know with World of Horror, I'm kind of reaching that point where I need to, put it aside and just, let it simmer and see how it turns out.
Yeah, I feel you on that one because like I have so many games too. Nowhere near as many as you do, but I have a healthy bit, or maybe an unhealthy bit kind of thing, and you got an extremely unhealthy kind of thing.
It's not safely extreme with me. No, it's just extreme.
Yeah, but I don't get much time to game, although I have lately because I've been trying to take a break, take time off, try to gather my bearings, try to recover from my situation and everything. But usually I don't get much of a break, especially, up till that point, I'd been working like pretty much nonstop for like 3 weeks. And, I was wanting to break. I didn't want to be forced into break this way, but I definitely wanted a break, but everything just kept on coming. And then finally, right when I got to the kind of end of it, this happened. But when I play my games, I've got a whole bunch of new ones that I've never even played. I've got a whole bunch of old ones that I want to return to. But something about a certain few games really brings me back. It's like, oh, I remember my last experience with that. That was really good. I want to go back and play more of that kind of thing. And also, another thing is I really want to complete any game that is good kind of thing. I'm used to back in the Nintendo days when I would beat every game in the weekend that I rented them, and then I would never rent them again kind of thing. and like I'm trying to get games off of my list by beating them, and of course I buy them far faster than I can beat them, sadly. And of course, games like 7 Days to Die and Oxygen Not Included don't actually have an ending. They are still technically in early access, but they're very, very solid as they are. And they're just so enjoyable for me to play. And, in the end, reason why I play games is, to enjoy myself. And those have, like, I put so many hours into them and I'm still very much enjoying them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we said, there's just so many great games coming out. It's getting harder and harder to find that time to play them.
Also, getting so busy that it's
Mm-hmm.
getting harder to find time to do anything.
Mm-hmm. I finally sat down and edited the whole roguelike presentation from last month, and then I think this week I'm going to be doing another presentation.
Yeah, I heard you edited out the best 30 minutes of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that just gives more reason for people to donate to the Patreon then and get all the uncut goodness.
The uncut sharkiness.
Mm-hmm. And I think with something like early access, like we've seen so many like interesting concepts come through it. And if you remember on Friday night, we took our little detour and looking at what is going on with that Dungeon Defenders game.
The third one?
Yeah, and the
I,
Kickstarter for that.
I didn't think we had actually played that one.
No, but we talked about it. We did like the whole little
Oh, right,
Kickstarter
right,
lookup.
right. You had me confused there. I was like, how'd you get a key for that? I didn't see that part. Yeah, yeah. Dungeon Defenders 3. That's got so many red flags behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's now $40 is a huge red flag. That it went from free to, so it went from whatever it was originally, like 10, 15, $20, something like that, with a good community,
Mm-hmm.
to free to play with the second one, where they completely, where the community just went completely toxic and bad, to selling it off to another developer, and the other developer is developing it for $40. Like there's so many red flags there that it's
Mm-hmm.
great.
So, other than the news about Nvidia's streaming platform, anything else this week that caught your eye in terms of the game industry?
Uh, I mean, more stuff about Blizzard and Activision, but that's par for the course at this point, and Bethesda for that moment, and both of them are actually tied into the whole thing on the on Nvidia's streaming
Mm-hmm.
platform, because
Mm-hmm.
they both abandoned it, even though, as far as I know, it didn't do anything, because on Nvidia's platform it doesn't actually sell you games. All it does is sell you a service to connect to your Steam account and play your games from Steam or Epic or whatever. So, like, they're just walking out consumers' ability to play their games that they've already bought through a streaming service. Mm.
Yeah. And I think that I'm trying to see if there's anything else new going on. Apparently, Take Two is switching studios to finish Kerbal Space Program 2. So, no idea what's going on there. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about that one. And especially.
It might just die.
Oh, test, test.
There you go.
Alright. Yeah. So, we'll be seeing more about Factorio in the coming months, I think.
You mean Kerbal?
Both Kerbal and Factorio.
But
because
what happened to Factorio?
it should be coming out 1.0 by the end of the year, at least according
Oh,
to news pieces.
right. But that has nothing to do with Take Two.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You worried me for a second there.
But I think with that, let's get to our first major topic then. And that is, of course, talking about the whole Netflix model for games and whether or not this is ultimately a good or a bad thing. Now, for people who don't know what we're discussing, when we take a look at obviously the traditional way of buying a game, you give a developer or you give a store money. Hey, Dave. You get your copy of the game, it's yours to keep, everybody's happy. But over the past decade, we've seen this with the rise of PlayStation Now, Xbox Games Pass. I think Nintendo Plus is doing something special, or whatever Nintendo's thing is. The Jump platform. And now we're seeing this more with stuff like the NVIDIA or GeForce's version. Of course, Google Stadia, that I'm sure everybody here loves. And the idea, of course, is that instead of you buying games directly, or I'm sorry, and the Apple Arcade that just came out, I think a month or two ago. But the idea is that you subscribe to a service, excuse me, and you get all the games that are available at that time to play at your leisure. When the games swap out, as long as you have a subscription, you'll get to play those games. And this has again been called the quote unquote Netflix model, that kind of subscription service. And there have been people, shouting that it's going to be the future of games, just there's people saying it's going to be doom and gloom. For me, I'm not a huge fan of this model. I guess, what do you think, Shark?
Well, it all depends on how they do it, kind of thing. How they do it can either go one or two ways. It can either be very consumer friendly and very anti developer. It can be very anti consumer and very anti developer. It can be very anti consumer and pro developer. And maybe, and technically, there's a way that it can be, I wouldn't say pro consumer, pro anything. It would just be more like neutral kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a pro and pro somewhere out there, but I have yet to see it, kind of thing. And the way we go with why I'm saying it that way is the pro consumer is where consumers get a ton of games for basically no money, essentially. But that's at the same time anti-developer because developers need their money.
Yeah.
If they're going to continue playing the game or making games. So, which in the end would be actually anti-consumer at the same time because you're killing indie studios. You're killing all these game studios of games and whatnot because they're not getting funded, which is bad for the consumer.
Yeah.
So...
And that's been like the first big point that from a developer standpoint, it's very hard to understand how do you make money being on these platforms. It's almost akin to the whole idea of people had that we're just going to use Humble Bundle and bundling as our sole means of selling our game. And no, it doesn't work like that. Yes, you're going to sell 20, 30,000 copies, but at what? Like 5 cents a copy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for the streaming platforms, this has always been that tough sale. Why should I give somebody else why should somebody else get the money for my game and I get maybe, a quarter or a 16th of that sale?
Yeah, I mean, the way a lot of these models work is you pay, they grab your $15, $20, whatever price game you have, and they put it on there, and then they'll pay you X amount of cents for every person who played X amount of hours. So for every hour spent on your game, you may get 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, whatever it is. Maybe it's $1 or something. At which point, somebody would have to. Everybody that you would normally sell a copy to would have to spend 15 hours in that game in order for you to break even from just selling your game normally, kind of thing. And that is assuming that they have the same percentage as like Steam, 30%.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a higher percentage, there we go, make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is there are so many great games out there. We were just talking about this, and we don't have time to play them all, which means that every game is pretty much going to get stiffed on their time.
Yeah.
So because we don't have enough time for the amount of great games out there. So in a model like that, where it's just like that, there's no really good way about it. That's just murder for game developers, which then destroys the studios, which is then anti-consumer for the consumers because now they don't get the great games.
Yeah. And
it's pro-consumer at first, but it goes swiftly into anti-consumer after it kills the good studios.
It reminds you of when people send me like those jobs for like writing for these little websites that are like, write a post and you'll get paid per 100 views of that page. Okay, so how do I make any money that way? And it's like maybe it's like $2 per 100 views. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna spend several weeks writing an article, and maybe I'll make like $4 on that site. And the issue, of course, is that there are games that are going to do really, really well on this. Again, there is always going to be in any one of these services the games that rise to the top of the pile, and they're going to do reasonably well. But the problem,
specifically ones with addictive mechanics that bring you in. So, like the free-to-play games that really abuse you mentally would be like the number one ones making money on that kind of thing.
Of course. And Thorn, I think, beat you to that, where it would incentivize people to make giant, grindy games. Because what about a single-player game that has, 8 to 10 hours of content? Somebody plays through it, finishes it, they're never going to touch it again. That game is left on the service, it's making $0 for them.
Yeah, if it's $1 an hour, they get $8 to $10 from that, where they would have normally sold the game for $15, $20, $25 or whatever they would have sold it for.
Yeah. And again, like it always seems, and I think you've said this several times already, it's short-term gain for long-term destruction.
Mm-hmm. Now NVIDIA's model is a lot better. NVIDIA's model is the best model I've seen, to where they're not actually selling games. The games have nothing to do with the service. The service is just, we'll connect to your Steam library and we'll stream those games to you kind of thing. It's not any kind of platform. It is just, we'll take a game, process it through our hardware and send it to you. It's your game you bought on whatever platform.
So is it... So it's kind of like I can buy the game, and then instead of needing to worry about a computer that's needed to run it, I basically let NVIDIA do that all for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just got to pay NVIDIA for the streaming service.
And obviously like internet as well. You have your ISP.
Yeah. It's not cheap or anything. I'm pretty sure. I think it's something like it's not like ridiculous either. I think it's something like, I don't know the actual price, but if I remember right, I swore I remember hearing something about $5 an hour or something like that. Which, I mean, you put a good 8-hour gaming session in every day, and you're going to end up with a huge bill, kind of thing. But it's not super bad, and you would be better off buying a PC that could actually run it, because if you let's see what that calculates out to real quick.
And here, while you're doing that, it again sounds like the old argument about the Steam box. Why should someone spend money to get a less than adequate PC when they can spend a little bit more money and get a pretty decent PC.
Yeah, if you spent 8 hours a day playing games every day for 7 days, that's $280. That is a decent graphics card, not a great graphics card, but a decent, kind of thing. That's one of the lower tier brand new ones, and you could pretty much play all the games on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it is. If that price is right, it is pretty dang expensive and not really worth it. But that's like the best model we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. And the other problem, of course, is that it once again favors that cult of notoriety, that cool personality. That you think some tiny little indie game is going to do well on Google Stadia. No.
No.
Why again? This is that other issue that it's the same thing that we see with Steam. That when you lump AAA and first time indies together, do you think people are going to care about the first time indies, or they're going to care that they see something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Battlefield or anything like that for like $5 to $10?
They're not going to care anything for the indies,
Mm-hmm.
especially with who this is targeting, because this is targeting basically people who play consoles, people who do not have a PC. I mean, people who already have a PC, already can play their games already. The only reason why they would ever need this service is if like they're going out of town and they want to stream their games for a weekend to their phone or to a laptop or something like that while they're out. But like at the same time, they're going to have killer internet somehow while they're out and about, and I doubt a hotel is going to have killer internet. So,
Mm-hmm.
It kind of goes back to like, if you want to do that, you're going to have to just get a gaming PC kind of thing, a gaming laptop rather.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even really work there, even at that kind of thing. It's really targeting specifically like people who are on consoles right now.
And who have a ton of money and don't understand how computers work.
Yeah. People who pay $60 a game.
Oof. What kind of crazy world is that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Damn. Those are what kind of weirdos do that these days. As I look here at let's get the official count here. 1,984 games on my Steam library. What do I do when I hit 2,000, Shark? Like, what happens?
Y2 game.
Does Steam become sentient and take over?
No, your Steam crashes and you lose all your games.
Oh no!
Just imagine if you had paid $60 for each one of those.
Oh god!
That'd be almost $120,000.
Mm-hmm. And I just spent $20 to get 30 games between like 2 or 3 different Fanatical bundles this past week.
Yeah.
And again, like, I think going back to what you said earlier, that it's very hard to support these developers. Like, even when you buy games on Steam, again, as we said, Steam takes 30% for every sale. And of course, Epic, I think, of course, goes down, I think, to $10 or 10%, or
I think it's 11 or 12.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only ones who give you 100% is itch.io. But again, how many people know what itch.io even is?
Yeah. And itch.io doesn't give you 100%. They let you choose your percentage. So you can choose 0% or you can choose 100% and give them all the money.
Yep. And this is, again, the issue ultimately with this kind of discussion. We've talked about this again, that at the end of the day, somebody is going to get screwed. Whether it's the consumer or the developer, but somebody is going to get the raw end of the deal. And the problem is, who wants to take that burden on?
Yeah. the only way that I could really see this maybe becoming feasible in the future is if platforms themselves provided streaming kind of thing, like
Mm-hmm.
Steam provided streaming kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and was cheap by the hour kind of thing, and you could just run it on your PC or you could run it off of Steam's servers kind of thing, because Steam has massive amounts of servers kind of thing, and it would be an extra selling point for Steam as well kind of thing, but you wouldn't really need it unless your PC was super low spec,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or like you were out and about kind of thing, which still makes it fairly useless at that point. But like that seems to be the best way at this point, and the best
Mm-hmm.
way is fairly useless. So I mean, like maybe this is the future of gaming, but like through every aspect I can see, this is not the future of gaming. This is the end of gaming if this is what it all goes to, kind of thing. Because nobody's going to be able to make money.
Yeah.
Nobody can make money except for triple A's who can
Or
make money doing anything. They can they can abuse you for $5 million out of loot boxes and stuff, and get away with it.
or the indie darlings who've already, have succeeded.
I don't know if they'll even succeed
Mm-hmm.
in that kind of market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it's not an easy discussion because there are some good, again, like at the basic, on paper level, it's a pretty good idea. Allow somebody who doesn't have an expensive gaming rig or spends hundreds of dollars on consoles to be able to play whatever games they want. But the
Hmm.
problem is that, again, it's kind of like, I think it's like, as a very weird analog, it's like this whole discussion we're seeing around, Uber and Lyft versus, the taxi unions and stuff like that. That it sounds really great, but every time we discuss it, all we hear is, like Uber is, losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. And it's that question of, can something like this be sustainable and at the same time still allow everyone to earn a living?
I I think everybody's just they want all the big players, Google, with their Stadia, Nvidia, and all these other people are, seeing how much money hand over fist like Netflix made when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not seeing how much they're hurting right now because of all the other streaming platforms that are coming out,
Oh yes, yeah.
and Netflix may not be around for very much longer, kind of thing. Like I haven't ever really been into Netflix or anything, but like
Mm-hmm.
with Disney and everything else, like this is we've
There's
seen a severe rise of piracy, kind of thing, because the whole reason why everybody was into Netflix was because hey, this is where I can go get all my
it's
everything I
the
want to
only
see
game in
legally.
town.
Yeah, is where I can go get all my stuff legally and just be fine. Where now you're going to have to go to 20 different places,
Mm-hmm.
or you could just go to one and pirate it
Yeah.
all.
So let's see. There's Disney Plus. HBO has a streaming service. NBC, CBS. I think Fox has one. Um, who else is out there? Does Cartoon Network have streaming? Or I'm sure they're probably thinking about something like that. I know there's Boomerang.
I don't know,
Yeah, and again, it's
but
that problem of it works
as
when
long as there's only one
exactly. It's
or
why
two.
again Steam succeeded so well that they were doing it before anybody else did, and they cemented a fan base and an audience that is not going away. The We can even draw again analogs of Fortnite. Fortnite was the first battle royale to do it all, right. It did everything great. So everybody is now chasing them. And it's the same problem here that I'm sure developers, like we've said before, nobody likes to give Steam 30% of their revenue per copy.
Nope.
But the problem is, what's option B?
Not sell your game, pretty
Exactly.
much.
And again, like I spoke with, yeah, free to play, very easy to get into. And again, it was the most professional looking Battle Royale game at that time.
It had a good aesthetic to it.
Yep. Like when I spoke with Jeff Vogue from Spire Web Software, he said up front, like, I've been selling my game on my own for over 20 plus years at this point. I'm using Steam 100% because, yeah, there a lot of people will say, oh, they just take 30% and have your game on a storefront. For some developers, having that storefront is huge. And like we are saying, nobody is really offering a viable model.
Yeah. And Steam has lots and lots of issues.
Oh yeah,
Lots and lots of issues. Kind of thing.
they're the best of the worst, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we're
And but like right now, like everybody's chasing, all these big corporations are chasing the Netflix model for games and everything. And as they're chasing it, we see that Netflix isn't failing yet, but they are certainly going that way because like all these other people are coming in and they're going to divide the audience, and then once they divide it, nobody's going to be able to sustain themselves.
yeah, and then it just
And
kills
meaning that
everybody.
the only ones that will stay alive is the ones that will take a loss, which I'm sure Disney can take a loss for a very, very long time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's their game,
I mean, it worked with Sony. Remember, they were selling their consoles at a loss just to get that market share.
Yeah. And, I really, really hope Disney does not win it.
Mm-hmm.
But like they could potentially. But like the thing is at the same time they might all lose and just 100% go to piracy.
Mm-hmm.
Or enough goes to piracy that and everybody else is split between them that there is no money for any of them, and then they fold one after another, and as they fold, most of those people go to piracy.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
and again, like the reason why we haven't seen that issue with Steam is that once again, Steam cemented itself as the only game in town, and everybody was playing catch up to them. With something like what we're seeing with like the Netflix model and things along those lines, Netflix as a service doesn't do anything special. It's a portal to watch shows and movies that you like. Anyone with a platform can do that. There's no unique aspect to Netflix in the same way that Valve capitalized with Steam. Again, as we've said before, one of the reasons I should say, why Steam is still considered the best is that you're not just getting Steam. You're getting, online connections. You're getting matchmaking, friends lists, all the sales, all those additional features that add value. What was that?
Forums.
Yep.
Review systems.
Oh, yeah. And to some people, that doesn't sound like it's worth anything. To other people, 30% seems like a low ball, for that amount of value.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Epic is struggling to get a shopping cart.
Yeah. I think they finally allowed reviews at some point. Or they allow certain reviews.
No, actually, it's optional for the developer to sign up for reviews. Is what it is, which is stupid because the ones that are corrupt aren't going to sign up for it. So like, it's like oh, hey, all the honest people have reviews scores, kind of thing. All the dishonest people, they ain't got review scores.
And to board fans' point, that is true, but they're not trying because they don't want to invest in outdoing Steam. It's the same thing we saw with the MMO rush. That surely somebody could have been World of Warcraft, but instead they all tried to copy World of Warcraft, and we saw what happened there.
Yeah. If I have my way, I will try to beat Steam.
Alright. And I know
But
developer of that the dinosaur game as well. He's trying to do it with his own platform.
well, he's not trying to beat Steam though.
Okay.
But I may be working with that person if I do get to that point.
Yeah. And I think let me check our time. I think we'll do our weird games. I think we're kind of starting to go around in circles here. That there's just doesn't seem to be like again like to this audience, you and I, to the people watching us live recorded, this seems like a colossal waste of time. Why should I give somebody else money when I can buy a game and own it for as long as I want? But
Yeah,
to the people who aren't educated about this, they're going to jump on this as, oh my god, I don't have to worry about all that, the quote unquote gamer stuff to be able to play these games. But is that really a market that developers should be going for?
I mean, I think if you're going for that market, you should go for that market on the console because you can actually make money there
Mm-hmm.
versus the streaming service. There seems to be no way for developers to make money on streaming service. There's plenty of money to be made for the streaming services, but there's no money to be made for developers, kind of thing.
Yeah. And here's my final point, and then I'll toss over to you, and then we'll move on. We were talking about this, I think, 2 weeks ago when we were playing Orcs Must Die 2. That they have confirmed that Orcs Must Die 3 is going to be a Google Stadia exclusive. For the main reason being that they're the ones who are funding that project. And
Mm-hmm.
I am just really unsure how that game is going to turn out. Because, again, if it does well, is that going to be because it did well because it's a great game? Or did it do well because it's the only game on Stadia?
I think it's going to fail horribly because, and then get ported to another platform where it does well. Because even if they get everybody on Stadia to actually buy that game, kind of thing, they're not going to have very high sales because there's not very many people who have Stadia. Because right now, to have Stadia, you have to have the subscription thing to Stadia. You've got to have like their Pixel 4 phone. You've got to have their whatever little console thing on the back of the TV that they say that you don't have to have, but you basically do have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have to have various other pieces of hardware, and you'll have to have all this stuff. And at this point, nobody's buying it except for people who just do not know better. And I don't, and I think with all the news articles and everything out there, I think there's a lot of people who know better, kind of thing, about them purchasing it and everything. So, like, I think that the game, unless they have more than broken even from Stadia's deal with them to be exclusive, then I think they're going to lose a lot of money. But I'm guessing Stadia gave them more than enough to break even. Enough
Just like
profit.
the Epic Games deals.
Yeah. So, assuming that the studio will succeed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a clause in the contract that says after a certain amount of time they're no longer exclusive, kind of thing? Is there something like that to where we can eventually you know, the people who haven't bought into the bullishness actually play this good game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, potentially good game.
Yeah.
That's the real question.
Mm-hmm.
Will we ever get to see the game?
Yeah. And again, like this is I think another issue a lot of people have about games being platform and console exclusive. That it only hurts these games' success because the fewer people who can play a game means the fewer or the less potential of an audience. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about this with kind of the Japanese game industry moving more towards PC. I mean, the fact we're getting some of the Yakuza games on PC is just, mind-boggling right now. And I'm waiting for, like, if we ever get, like, the Persona games. Like, if we see Shin Megami Tensei on Steam, that's just going to be, like, a shocking day for me.
Yeah, it everything seems to be moving closer to PC,
Mm-hmm.
but certain people are trying to take it from the PC and move it to streaming, and streaming is just a big dead end as far as I can see. Like there may be a way out there. You know, Nvidia's way isn't horrible, but it's expensive and not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. Like even if it's just $5 an hour.
Yeah.
I even if it was just $1 an hour, I think it'd be an incredibly bad deal, but it would be something. But they probably couldn't afford that because it probably takes a lot more than that to actually do it. Kind of. It probably cost them $1.50 an hour just to run the streaming thing.
Mm-hmm.
So unless the streaming platforms get their cost way way down, internet interest in internet instra dang it internet over across the world gets way more powerful without having to charge or upgrade, to insane amount of prices. There's no way, for this to be feasible in any kind of way because they have to get their costs down. You know, internet across the world has to get up to spec.
Yeah.
Which I mean, where I used to live, I had I think it was 5 choices between internet providers, which is a lot more than what they have where I live at now, where you have two.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, where I live at now is, between. Well, actually, I technically have three. There's two cable companies, one run through the utility company, and a AT&T with their DSL. Where I used to live out, you had one really, really horrible cable company, the worst I've ever seen. You had AT&T with their DSL, and you had three different services that had dial-up internet, 56K. And keep in mind that is only like a if you're just talking about freeway to freeway, not like exiting in the city and entering the city. If you're just talking about freeway to freeway, that is less than 10 miles away.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And it's like a whole different, it's like a third world country kind of thing. From, 10 miles away from a city kind of thing. It's barely a city, but it's been a city for, I think, like 10 years now or something like that, officially.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's still a small city, but, like, this is 10 miles away. You can barely get cable kind of thing. Like you can't get Comcast, you can't get Charter. Not that you'd want either one of those, but, like, you pretty much have no choice in the U.S. except for when you're in the middle of nowhere where those aren't even an option,
Yep.
which would be favorable kind of thing. And until the infrastructure, there's the word that I've tried to say many times, until the infrastructure of the U.S. and like the rest of the world gets better, internet wise, there's no making this feasible.
Yeah. And this is the same conversation we had about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, when Microsoft wanted to have a digital only console with the Xbox. I think that was the Xbox
Mhm.
One at the time. And yeah, it's improved, but it's still not perfect for everyone involved. And I think until we can get away, it seems like we need to first get digital only consoles or get like the whole digital infrastructure to that point before we can really talk about streaming as a viable option.
Yeah, and we ain't getting there until the infrastructure of the internet just gets an overhaul.
Yeah.
Like m- most of the United States. I don't know about other countries, but most of the United States, if you don't live in a big city, you ain't got nothing for internet kind of thing. You are lucky to get DSL kind of thing. Lucky because otherwise you're going to be stuck with 56K. And you can't do nothing on 56K. You can't even download the image. It takes like 5 minutes to download a pixelated JPEG kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's no way you can stream a movie, more or less a game, video game with that.
There's our new challenge. We'll do a dial-up stream. I know we'll do a dial-up stream of Chromasia. That'll really be a turn-based stream. 20
Yeah,
minutes a turn, basically.
yeah, exactly.
All right, but I think with that, let's get to our weird game segment, and then we will talk a little bit about teachable UIs. Let me get this up here. There we go. So, what do we have coming out in the next week or so?
With streaming Chromasia on 56K, would that be safely extreme?
I think we'll let the audience decide that one. We have Bioma. There's
What's
that
that name?
Exorcist game. Smart Moves. Puzzle and turn based roguelike mechanics. Hmm. The game has original game art style. That doesn't sound right.
I don't think it is right.
You get a new playing experience where game mechanics are of maximum importance.
Mm.
Oh, and it's an indie game.
Uh-oh. That means it's good, right?
Mm-hmm. 2.0 Hospital is coming to all the consoles. That's good. There's that Mr. Nova. Relo?
What about that Paradise Island up there?
Mm-hmm. What the hell? Fast-paced FPS set in procedurally generated arenas. Hmm. Those are
Well,
some.
that is kind of what you were talking about the other day.
Yeah. We can get camo, and there's no in-app purchase. Mm. Mm. Those graphics, though, a little hard on the eyes.
A little bit.
Let's see, what's this? Hmm. Art doesn't look too bad. So it's an adventure game. Cosmic horror. That run animation was a little awkward. Hmm.
Maybe it's meant to be awkward.
Mm-hmm. But the aesthetic is very clean.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, we got one so far. What is this? Hmm. Hand-drawn adventure. I don't know what that image is supposed to be of.
Maybe some weird fingers.
This like would hurt your eyes after a while.
Probably. Looks like a pen and ink drawing.
Hmm.
It could be. What is that? A synthetic blood mind shift.
I think we looked at this one. Oh yeah, this one was last week. Action platformer with different endings. Hmm. Huh.
Aesthetically stuff to be like part of the aesthetics is good, like but like
Hmm.
the rest of it is not.
Yeah. Let's see. Is Beautiful Desolation considered safely extreme?
Probably.
Catlandia.
There's two for you or three. Is that two or three for you?
And we're up to three? Streamer Daily. What the hell is this? Oh, good. Pretend to be a live streamer.
No. Can we do that right now?
Hmm.
Live?
Ouch. Oh, I can participate in tournaments.
That'd be safely extreme, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If
What if we fail at the game while doing a live stream?
well, what if we succeed at the game but fail at the stream?
Yeah, only like 3 people are watching.
Yeah.
Let's see. Historia D.
One finger death punch too.
Hmm. Let's see. Came out right. Must be going to the consoles.
Hmm.
What the hell? Is this a RPG Maker game? No.
It doesn't look like it.
Oh god, I can track my exercising.
They definitely lacked on the visual appeal, like in a lot of it. But like, I mean, it could technically be RPG Maker, but probably not. That looks like
Hmm.
something custom because it looks like they were kind of going for an Earthbound kind of
Hmm.
UI kind of thing.
Alien Cat. What?
Didn't you play this one?
No, I played one with a dog.
I thought it was a cat.
Hard to tell. It was very pixelated. Flat Earths, Iris and the Giant. Oh, that has a very striking aesthetic, but is it just kind of like hard to like process what's happening?
Yeah, it's striking me in a bad way.
I had a fusion of collectible card game with RPG and roguelike elements. Again, I think we're going. Oh man, I think we're going to be seeing the rise of the Slay the Spire like in the coming months.
Yep.
Tactical battles, touching adventure, progressive
That
difficulty
and
curve.
tons of cyberpunk stuff.
Hmm. And it's published by Goblin Studios again.
Oh, that's a Goblin Studio?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Published but not developed. Hmm. Well, let's give it a go.
They're in Goblin Studio and they were maybe changed my mind a little bit. I was like, might be a good
Barbarians
game.
Tavern of Amir. Wait a minute. Oh, that is very busy looking. Looks like a mobile casual game.
Yeah, it does have very much a mole kind of
And this looks
outfit.
very premium currency right here.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
Punch Man game, Snailians, Box. Is this a Getting Over It clone? Yep, it's a Getting Over It.
No, no. I'll expect that to ravaged YouTube for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Let's see. We'll do two more pages and then we'll move on. King of
I can't
Vikings.
wait for everybody to not shut up about that.
Mm-hmm. Book of Yogg.
Oh,
From game
Retrowave.
developers.
Check out Retrowave. Got a very much cyberpunk kind of aesthetic looking to it.
Oh, it's one of the most in-depth idle RPGs ever. And was made by game developers.
Oh, snap.
Mm.
So, in depth idle, means that there's more than just idle. Maybe clicking
Oh,
to
no,
idle
no less than 10 cars. Alright, it's 80s and synth.
doesn't look horrible.
Yeah, we're not clicking on that one right there.
I dare you to click on that one.
Where's Draken?
Draken, are you here? We need you. Get him to click on that.
Dworos? What?
What is
Explore.
that? Dwarf arrows? They're arrows, but they look like dwarfs.
Oh, I guess the duck is interested in us, but it doesn't trust us.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. Wait a minute. Is this that game we played? Yes. This was that game that was like the free game that was then transformed into that he decided to turn into an actual game release.
Yeah. Looks like you got a good suggestion there in chat.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. That should last fast on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Chuck Morris. Uh,
Meowrus.
what the? Oh, it's a rogue. I think someone's been watching our streams. It's a roguelike, whatever this genre is.
They needed to include what is a rogue after
Mm-hmm.
that.
And it's developed by Why Not.
Because why not?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Bucket Knight.
Yeah, that sounds like a Shovel Knight
Mm-hmm.
clone kind of thing.
He uses a gun.
How does that make sense? He's supposed to use a bucket, not a gun.
Yeah.
That would be Gun Knight, not Bucket Knight.
Somebody's already probably developing a Gun Knight. Weed Farmer Simulator. Journey to Planet Earth.
My question is what farmer grows weeds? I mean, isn't that an anti-farmer? Isn't that somebody who doesn't farm and they just let weeds grow? I mean,
Let's see. I think I answered something about this one. Is this a? I was not expecting that from that title.
this is a very bad reference, but you know what that game reminds me of?
What?
That first one, that first screenshot. It reminds me of the Zelda on the 3DI.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something about it just reminds me so much of the characters remind me so much of that for some reason.
How do you even pronounce that name? El Elson? It's not Jane Cassandra.
Elson, probably.
Floria? I think they went to my school of naming characters, type a bunch of letters in. If it sounds like a name, it's good enough.
Floria.
I don't know. My gut is telling me that these the animation, the movement's gonna be very stilted. I don't know why.
Yeah, I can you see there. I can see it already with the three arrows.
Hmm.
If you mean us talking about Safeway Stream or Netflix models of games, then yes, you did miss the best part for it.
Hmm. Well,
We'll be going to Teachable UIs here in a few minutes.
I'll put one in. Maybe it'll be a surprise. Let's see.
It'll
What
be a
the?
surprise either way.
Mm-hmm.
Just the question is a good surprise or a bad one.
Mm-hmm. Story of a Chinese restaurant. Story. Wait, life is beautiful. Grave Tower. What? It's great. There's like very little mention what this game is. Rogue Light tactical RPG. Mm.
What is a rogue tactical RPG?
Alright. What is this name? That's a
That
good name for
cactus
a game.
sounds like the best game. You should click on it.
Mm-hmm. Hippo Boar Rancher.
That's
What?
is it a hippo or a boar? Or
Don't
is it
know.
both? It's a hippo slash boar. It's safely extreme.
Let's see. The last guy's a 3D puzzle with 2D platforming. So is it like 2.5D? Hmm. Looks interesting. Alright.
Could be interesting.
So with that, let's get to our final topic. I think this will either be a very quick one or a very long one. We'll see where it goes. But we are talking about using UI or having the UI be a good example of teaching the player how it all works. And this is a very hard concept for a lot of people. There we go. We should
Very.
have some motorcycle helmets like that. But when it comes to teachable UIs, what makes this very hard is that it really gets in the idea of user experience and user interface. And a lot of developers, especially first time ones, don't really think about this.
Yeah, they don't. And in matter of fact, some of the more advanced pros don't even think about this kind of thing. But you get into a game and you don't want a handheld game kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't want a game that you have no idea what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a good teachable UI design is a key part in that because I mean when we think about the tactical RPG genre, you think about you get into combat, most people are overwhelmed because you have attack, button and then that and then you have the move button, you have the magic attack and the mini, sub menu underneath that. You've got the defend button, you've got the item button, and you've got to use everything in the right order, kind of thing, or else you just messed up. And you got the big giant sub menu underneath the items,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Like that is a pretty confusing UI kind of scheme. And that's here we go for the word of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we tried to correct in Chromasia by combining move and attack under the same button kind of thing. Not only did we combine move and attack, but we also combined magic there
Mm-hmm.
and the sub menu. So like when you click just attack, it would automatically trigger the move and it would give you the selection between the regular attack and the specials kind of thing. It would give you all of them, all with just one button press kind of thing. Where if you click defend, it combined both defend and move. So again, it combined two functions into one button because you wouldn't ever need one without the other. So why would you make two separate buttons for it?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep. And
just any way you can simplify the UI and create less elements, UI elements on the screen
mm-hmm.
or in the menus or whatever. Anytime you can do that and it's intuitive, that is good UI design.
Yep. And as we said before, the UI is not where you want your game to be complicated. And
Mm-hmm.
we see a lot of developers struggle with this by making it just very hard to follow, lots of little buttons, or just kind of using their first UI and saying, oh, we're done, let's move on to something else.
Yeah. And the thing about the UI, you also don't want it cluttered on the screen. Some games have, gone with what's called diegetic, so,
Diegetic.
diegetic UIs, which had where you like look at your watch or whatever, and you can see your stats and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fine for some stats that you're not
Mm-hmm.
always needing to look at. But anything that the player needs to be constantly aware of, I think that's bad UI design. Like you need to be if you need to be aware of what your HP is, you don't want to have to look at your watch or look at some other place to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, if it's something less important kind of thing, but still important kind of thing, that might be fine kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't need everything right there. You can, look at things,
Yeah. And I think dynamic UI design is a really big point here about showing information that's relevant to what the player is currently looking at. You don't want somebody to be hunting around for information. And this is something that we see from a lot of old school or kind of the more niche 4X and grand strategy games, where it's not just you clicking on something, you need to look like 3 to 4 menus deep to find the information to then make a decision and then go back to the main screen. And for people who grew up with that, that seems second nature to them. But when the UI is kind of fighting the player, it just kills their way of trying to learn it.
yeah, absolutely. So it needs to be easily readable.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be the other part is it needs to be UI is so much a part of your aesthetics kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, with through the diegetic UI, their goal is to hide all the UI kind of
Yep.
thing, and make the game look really clean that way. But if you're sacrificing usability for that cleanness,
Yep.
you're just shooting your game in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to balance. If you're going with that, you need to balance the cleanness with the usability and make sure that I would say usability comes first,
Yep.
cleanness comes second. And I mean, like when you're going to take your screenshot of your game or whatever, just turn the UI off. You know what I mean? Put a little button in there that just for the developers that you can turn the UI off, kind of thing. Take a screenshot and turn it back on. Don't just get rid of all your UI because you want a pretty screenshot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can just turn it off temporarily, take a screenshot, and then turn it back on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mess up your game in order to get a screenshot.
Yeah. That game we played on stream, Bonfire, that came out. I think we looked at that a few weeks ago, and we'll probably look at it for the Indie Spotlight next week. Like that one has a very clean UI, and once again, it shows the information where it's relevant. If I put my, mouse on the character, it gives me what that spell is. If I put it on an ally, it gives me that information. If I put it on the enemy, it gives me that information. Basically, whatever I'm looking at, it's giving me the relevant information I need.
Yeah. And the other part is the aesthetics. Like the UI plays so much into your aesthetics. Like I didn't even realize how much it plays into your aesthetics until I started working on a game that
Yeah.
most of the things are UI.
Yeah. And again, this is another thing that we see from a lot of first-time developers, where it looks like the UI was copied and pasted from another game. Like just so it has like Windows folder images or window folder, like that kind of aesthetic to all the stat screens. If you remember that settlements game that we played on stream a few weeks ago, like
Mm-hmm.
when you click on that, it just does not look like it meshes with the world. And the problem, I think, for a lot of developers and hardcore fans is they're going to be like, so what? As long as I can get information, who the hell cares if it fits within that space or not? But it does care, or it does matter, because this is all presentation. And it's how you make your game look like, you as a developer actually gave a damn when you designed it.
Yeah. And if we can go to a share screen right now.
All right, let me know when it's up. And while you're getting that up, to Foreign's
There we
point,
go.
yeah, like when the art is like blocking, when you have like stuff that's actually blocking the main screen, like that is incredibly annoying. Like we saw that with some like I think like a few like real time strategy games, so they have like these very like artistic uh, info panes. And you see like logos and like arms and tentacles coming out of it, and it's blocking the main screen, or it's actually distracting you from playing the game. Now let me
Yeah.
see if I can get a sharks thing up here. Will this work? Okay. It worked to some extent.
Let me see if I can adjust something on my side.
I can zoom it in myself too.
Here,
Okay.
I'll zoom out a little bit. Is that
I think that's good.
okay? Uh, Question is, can they see my mouse?
Yes, they can.
Okay, so let's look at this for a moment. So, anything right offhand? Do you see an issue?
Well, I guess the thing is, what am I supposed to be focusing on as a player here?
Yeah, I mean, it is all over the place. I don't know if this has actually or not, so it may not be designed for that.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing is that UI is meant to be read, right? That's the entire
Mm-hmm.
purpose. You can read this August 5th really easily. You can read this 89 degrees, probably
Mm-hmm.
read this partially cloudy. But can you read whatever this is?
Yeah. Or all the information in the
Can
bottom
you read
left
that?
hand corner, or in the
Can you
top left
read
corner.
any of this? Can you
Yeah.
read any of this? Can you read any of this? And the you have to have a large enough text font
Mm-hmm.
that will be readable. And technically the bigger the better, but there is the point where and limitations like
Mm-hmm.
you have things you got to fit it into, and you can't make those too big or else you're going to over
Mm-hmm.
go into other things and cover up the entire screen with UI.
Yep.
So you do this through like manipulation of how much UI kind of goes in here and sub menus and stuff like that. But this in general is visually pleasing. It's just not readable kind of thing. And a UI that's not readable is a huge, huge failure in my opinion.
Yep. If you can't understand what you're looking at on screen, then your
Mm-hmm.
UI has failed. It's just that
Yeah,
simple, and that has been a failure of many 4X and grand strategy games.
yeah. And I mean, they have these bits of decorations, which is good, but it's probably too decorated and taking over too much of your screen, kind of thing.
Again,
Now if this only popped up when you hit the escape button or whatever and popped up the menu, that would be fine. But if this is like up while you're legitimately playing and
mm-hmm.
everything, this is way too much.
And again, as a player, what should I be focusing on right now? Is information on the left more important? Is information on the right? Is all that just completely nonsensical? I should be just focusing on the background? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, and that's another point is like you don't want the UI really so much divided. I mean, it's all
Mm-hmm.
right to divide it to some point, but don't divide it too much. Don't put something down here in this corner, something up here in this corner, something over here in this corner, something over here, something over here.
I remember there was a game that we played like a few years ago. It was like this. It was a turn-based or tactical strategy where you play as the bad guys. And what they
Mm-hmm.
did was they had the UI separating the four different quadrants on screen, and it's just like kind of just like floating out in the aether. Like it's not connected to anything. It's just like we're just gonna copy and paste this element, put it right here. We're gonna copy and paste this element, put it right there. And
Yeah,
like, and this is one of those things again. Like it sounds good on paper, having four different quadrants for your information, but it doesn't work from a presentation standpoint because as a player, I am staring at the screen. And we've talked about this before. I did a video a few years ago about kind of like your main view, like where my eye is focusing right now. For those of you watching this right now, you're probably focusing on me moving in the top left corner because I'm the most animated thing on screen right now. So, what if I put some kind of super important message in the bottom right? How many people would be noticing it? I should totally like start doing that in my videos, just put like hidden messages just to trick people.
yeah,
But
you should absolutely do that.
but the point is, for a lot of developers who tend to do this, and like this is one of my big pet peeves, where here's like I'm focusing on this side of the screen, this is where all the action is, and there's like game affecting critical information like right here in the corner that you're never going to notice, and it's telling you whether or not you're going to win or lose.
Yeah, and it's probably in small print too.
Oh yes. And then you have like some like unimportant thing up here, blinking and flashing that has nothing to do with what's going on.
Exactly. And position wise, like you you want to keep what's on screen to when you're playing anyway. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know good in the menus to keep it all over the screen, but like when you're actually playing and everything, not in the menus and everything, it's good to keep it as centralized as possible. Like if you have a lot of UI that the players need to look at, probably like use like the entire like bottom like quarter of the screen or the entire top
Yeah.
quarter kind of thing, or the entire quarter here on the side kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But if you don't need that much information, cut it down. Have just a little bit right here in this corner, a little bit in this corner, a little bit in this corner. Just pick a corner,
Mm-hmm.
or even pick the middle kind of thing. Whatever you think would work best for your specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
But keep it to a minimum, but don't keep it so minimum that you just make it unusable.
Yep.
Usability is number one. And if it's everywhere, it's also not usable.
Yep. And to Foreign's point, I agree. Like, I don't want the UI to look cool. Because if it's cool looking, 9 times out of 10 it means it's also going to be distracting from the game. And we've seen games where they'll just throw, particle effects and numbers and screen shake and everything happening all at once. And there's no way to tell what am I looking at right now.
Well, I would disagree with that. Like, I think that the UI does need to look cool, but it doesn't need to look so cool and grab so much attention unless it is something important that you need to actively look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're gonna make something blink and flash over here, make
It's
it show that you're like at 2 HP and you're about to
it has to
die.
have a reason. Like you don't want your entire screen to be blinking and flashing, and it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want anything to grab the player's attention that is not important. I
Yeah.
mean, you do want it to overall look good and everything, but again, don't sacrifice the usability of it.
Yeah. It should basically be usability at the top, and then presentation like a close second.
Mm-hmm.
And to Thorn's point, yeah, and that's where we're getting the kind of the diegetic UI examples, stuff like Dead Space, Ghostbusters. There's another
And,
example that I always keep forgetting of this.
and you got to be careful with that because if you go too far with the diegetics, you can hurt the usability.
Yeah, and again, like most of the time, a diegetic UI only works for an action-based game. Like I couldn't even. Here's your game design challenge, Shark, and to everybody watching: design me a diegetic UI for a grand strategy game.
That
There you go. You can
sounds
finish
like a
that
good challenge.
in an hour, right? That's not designing a game. That's just UI.
Yeah, it won't
You
take
don't
an
even
hour.
need lunch for that.
Yeah, you can just skip it. So another example we got is over here. Let me see if I can get this size good for the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That looks good. Oh,
going to have an issue with this one.
yeah. So something like this, it's very well. One thing, it has style to it. You know, we have the neon color. We can see like the actual name like blinking like a neon sign. It's readable. I can see what's going on. My eye is basically there are three things on there that's kind of focusing my eyes on. We have the title on the right, the little blue character up there, and of course, the text below her or him. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, and that is a really good example of UI for
Mm-hmm.
like a start game.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is very well polished, very aesthetically pleasing. It has enough action in it that it's not boring or anything. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, bore you just to be
Yeah.
on the title screen. You can look at this for, you know,
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes and be perfectly, content looking at it for 5 minutes kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I could imagine a lesser example of this being like one of those very stock, like just like a still screen with like some generic music playing over it.
Mm,
And another thing that I noticed that I think is like a very subtle touch, you can see kind of a categorization of the UI elements by the purple neon lines. Like continue a new game, have a or separate from load game and options, which are separated from credits and quit.
yeah. The, I guess it's the importance level kind of thing, separation.
Yeah,
Because everybody's going to pretty much either want to do the new game or continue kind of thing.
yeah. And what's
And
also
then,
very important is that you don't have the start game option right next to the quit game option because we've seen some developers do that.
oh, yeah. We've also seen developers not give away to quit their game.
Oh yes.
And I would advise not necessarily you don't need a quit button here, but you do need one inside the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I do hate it when it's like quit the menu and it's like I can't just quit the game. No, you
Yeah.
gotta quit the menu. And then you get to the menu and then you can get out. It's like
Or
I
you
mean I
quit to
like the
menu, but you can't quit the game, so you have to go back into the game to then quit the game.
yeah. I hate it when they force you 2 steps to get out of the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, it's fine to have an option to just go back to the menu, but don't force a player to go back to the menu in order to quit your game,
Yep.
kind of thing. But this is very much a very good example of a UI and everything, and it's fairly simple if you look at it from an aesthetics point. And
Mm-hmm.
this is aimed very much at you, Thorn. Here
Mm-hmm.
is that they have like a single color right here for the globe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they just have outline here. They have one color up here, which they've added some lighting effects kind of thing. They
If
probably
you're,
did that in engine
yeah,
too.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you are using your pointer, we're not seeing it on screen.
Uh, uh, well, it was working before.
Yeah, that's weird.
Anyway, the top of the building right there, where you see that glow and everything,
That's my pointer.
that's just a single color and everything. And then you see that this is for the building and everything, this is probably just a single color with lighting effects kind of thing placed onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new game plus and everything. This is like some pretty dang simple to do. I mean, then they have the transparent little walls at the top around
Mm-hmm.
it, and then they have a little animated character, and then the text, for the title is just, a little animated, uh,
Mm-hmm.
probably possibly particle system kind of thing. I
Yep.
don't know exactly what that is. Could be, I doubt it's a shader, but like it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely some kind of programmed animation, most likely. The hardest part to this would be the actual little city below.
Yeah, with all the
But
cars moving around.
yeah, but those cars are just a couple of dots,
Yeah.
couple of pixels that are just zooming by. Could just even be just a particle system kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those buildings, once you do one of them, and mind you that those buildings are basically just two colors with with a little bit of gradient on them,
I
kind of
think they're
thing.
all
Once
just the
you,
same model, but with like different windows on it.
I think they're all, yeah, and they just move around the windows.
Mm-hmm.
This is something ridiculously easier to achieve, kind of thing. Like, it doesn't have to be some kind of masterpiece of art to look dang good, kind of thing. It just takes knowing where to put effect,
Mm-hmm.
to elicit that visual appeal. I mean, like the hardest thing on here would be the character kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're already going to have a character.
And I would throw in that I am sure they didn't come up with this on their first go around. Like this wasn't, draft one for this title screen. They probably
Oh no,
went through iterations to get to this point. But as we've always said, I think this is another major thing that we always come back when we talk about game design and game development. The stuff that looks very simple can still take it takes a lot of work to get something to look simple.
yeah, and iteration is very much key in this kind of thing. Now let's look at something else here. Let me put that over there. So let's look at this here. Is that
Yeah.
looking right? So this is our, from our game.
Mm-hmm.
This is currently something I'm still working on, something I'm still iterating on. Very much a work in progress. But you can see this text. This is not as big as you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You want your text to be bigger than this, but we have limitations that really kind of, handcuffed our hands kind of thing. And I really want to make this text bigger, but like you just can't. Not unless you make the this section bigger, which then causes all kinds of imbalances and everything. And this is lesser important information kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why the lesser important information is in the smaller font. The time travel here and the TTP group and this built martial artist and everything.
Mm-hmm.
All that is lesser information. Like this is just flavor text.
Yep.
They don't need that at all. That's just something they can, have for extra flavor kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Time travel, I mean, they do need that, but they really only need that while they're building decks. And that's when they have time, they can focus on everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the moment.
Yep.
So, it can be a smaller text. Same thing with the group here. Like they can, that's in deck building pretty much only, and it won't even be really applicable in the first set kind of thing. Like it'll function in the first set, but like the real function doesn't really come until you have multiple groups, which won't come until the second set kind of thing. But like this will be important in deck building, but not in when you're playing the game. Now, the stuff that will matter while you're playing the game is the name. You will be able to. You need to identify the card. How much it costs to play, your energy cost. This is very important, very identifiable. Your four stats here, your attack/defense stats here. Those are very very key in
Mm-hmm.
seeing.
Yep.
And your ability to hear, your power. You need to know what that is. Your opponent needs to know what that is. Your opponent needs to know all this information so
Mm-hmm.
they can correctly identify the threat and everything.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point to elaborate on when we talk about teachable UIs versus UIs in general. That when we first started this topic, we said that you don't want the UI to basically play the game for the player. As in, you have a card here, you should put it right here. And then the game is just playing itself. What you
Mm-hmm.
want is the UI should give the player all the relevant information they need to be able to figure out what's going on and what should I be doing next. It goes back to when we talk about tutorial designs, where I say I need to know what something is, how do I do this, and why am I doing this. And that can be extended into UIs. Like as you were just saying, obviously if I'm playing against you, I need to know what the value is of that card, what the four numbers are, because I need to play something against that. And
Yeah.
one thing that you can also, I think I suggested this when we did the first running of it, was to be able to have like a dynamic UI that shows me if I place my card here, does it win or not? Take the information that if I need to know something to make a decision, you have to give me that information. You don't want the player to either A, have to go outside the game to figure something out, or B, have to basically, do off screen calculations in order to determine something when you can solve that via the UI.
Yeah. And we have a UI that will pop up when you're playing it, and will show if this stat will beat your opponent's
Mm-hmm.
stat, kind of thing. It does not take into consideration your power though,
Mm-hmm.
and as there's a reason behind that, and we're probably going to stick to it, but we're not 100%. But there's a reason behind that because you don't want the game to play for itself. You don't want to be like, oh, my opponent has this power, they're going to win because they have this power, kind of thing. Even though my stat's going to win, they're going to actually win because they have a special power.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we want to, take the strategy out of it. Take, that bit of strategy out of there. You just want to do the basic calculations and show, hey, you don't have to do this math in your head. Here it is, kind of thing. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to. You don't want to also be like, oh, here's a strategy. Have
You should place this card here, and you'll do a 10 card combo kind of thing.
yeah. And for the UI and everything, the appearance, I think it's pretty good. Like we're still
Mm-hmm.
working on it, trying to make it better and everything. But like this is very very simple. You look at this, and do you think that's pixel art?
No.
Well, it is pixel art.
Mm-hmm.
This is 100% pixel art. If we zoom in right here,
Yep, you can start to see it a little bit. Yeah, I can see it now.
you can see that it is
Mm-hmm.
just a line of pixels. Here, can we see my mouse?
No, unfortunately.
Well, up here, right above the floor, you can see that thin line of pixels right there coming
Mm-hmm.
down. And let me try to zoom in a little bit more on it. You can
Yeah.
see it's just
You
one
can
pixel right
see the
there.
squares. Yeah.
And, we have just this transparent blue coming through, making these circuits and everything. And then we have the hard blue on the top with it for the symbols, and then we have the mana symbol here.
Yeah.
And
And again, like for people looking at this right now for the first time, they're probably assuming, oh, you figured this out within a day. It was that simple to do. But no, it took you months. I was there. You showed me, the prototypes and the voting and all the different things you did to get to this point.
oh yeah, like okay, so originally the game looked like this,
Mm-hmm.
very very meme worthy and everything. And you see those cards down there. Um, but like if we, the first thing I did was uh because let's see here. This right here is actually the UI right there. That is what's in the meme worthy version of the game. You can see it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that this right here was a card front right there. And it was just colored in engine kind of thing. And I just started with that, took what we had and started editing it. And this is not like the first version or anything, but this is not too far in
Mm-hmm.
right here. And I just took it, enlarged it to the size that we needed it. I added this little flare out because I knew that we were going to need a flare out for our energy cost kind of thing. I added there was already an outline. I just changed the outline to blue and made the card itself transparent,
Mm-hmm.
which it pretty much already was. It was actually it's technically white, but like it was pretty close to transparent. And then I colored this line in here, kind of thing, and then I added a little bit of shape here for the stats, and because I wanted to go, like angular, technical, make it look really like
Framing,
sci-fi kind of thing.
electronics, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
And again,
a
like
few.
this took time. That's the big thing. Again, like this is an earlier example of this, and this is something that I say, and this could be its own topic. Like this could be a topic for a future cast. Like this is why it's important if you're studying game design that we need more information about the process and the iteration that goes into it. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
like I would bet you that when Project Triad comes out, it's up on Steam when people are looking at it. They're going to once again assume, you just did this, this was a simple thing to do, right? The same thing with Darkest Dungeon. That how many people copy Darkest Dungeon from its UI to its aesthetics, thinking that's all I needed to do, and now my game will be a success. It doesn't work like that. You have to understand the process that goes into this stuff to get it to that polished standpoint.
Yeah, and iteration is absolute key. And here we got it with the symbols and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
the symbols just did not work. It took away from the game and
Yeah.
everything. So we eventually removed them. But if you look here, you can see now that it's still that exact same pixel art as it is in the
Mm-hmm.
final, but it's just a single color instead of two different colors.
Yep.
Instead of outlining it,
The
kind of thing.
KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid, I think really does apply here. That you don't want your UI to be complicated. I don't think there's ever an example of a game where making the UI hard to follow, very, very detailed but very confusing, ultimately leads to a better game. And
Yeah,
this is why, like, I'm going to be making this video about when we talked about Besiege. This is why Besiege just really infuriates me. Is that it's the same exact UI from 3, 4 years ago is still in their game. That should not be. And again, this is one of the big things about UI design is that this is something that you should be iterating on. And it's also why it's important to get people to play test your game as early as possible. Because if somebody is finding your UI in the alpha state to be confusing and hard to follow, it's going to be so much worse if you're using that same UI at 1.0.
Right. Now here we have another iteration. You can see here that it looks far cleaner here because I've gotten rid of the symbols and just went with blocks here. Now this does kill our colorblind friendly ness, because with the symbols they could identify a symbol and be like, oh, that's this stat because it's this symbol kind of thing. It's not just strictly color based. But now we're strictly color based. So now we're going to have to add in a system to allow the players to change these colors.
Yep. And
but we needed to make that sacrifice for the visuals.
And again, as you go through this iterations, and this is very important as well, again, why iterating is such a big point about this. If you change an aspect of your UI, you're changing everything that's connected to that piece of UI. And this is why for a lot of games, especially those that are trying to be very deep or very complicated, you have to get your UI as solidified as possible as early in the development. Because if you're changing your UI, you're going to then have to go over all the work that you've done in other aspects of it. And again, this is one of the things I saw with Clockwork Empires, that they kept changing major elements around, which then had to be redone or re-edited to fit the new elements. But then when those elements got replaced, we do it again and again and again. And like we're saying, like, you're going to be iterating on your UI, yes, but there should come a point, or in a perfect world, there should come a point where you can sit down and say, my UI is solid, I will not touch it again.
Exactly.
And like we're saying, like, this is the major part for this topic. Everything that we're talking about is something the general consumer is not thinking about. Like, again, when they look at Darkest Dungeon, Slay the Spire, Disco Elysium, or even something like Untitled Goose Game, they're only looking at the finished project. They're not seeing all the work that goes into this. And this, I think, is why UI design is very hard to do for first-time developers. Because you don't really get that hands-on experience until you do it yourself.
Exactly. Here we have another version right here. Now, I need to make a note here that this background does not belong to us. We were just testing it out so that we could, get a feel for what it will look like when we get backgrounds in here and everything. And, issue we had was that this was showing through a bit too much. This was not.
It's getting to the point of being a distraction, essentially.
Yeah. And, we added some, the gameplay functions down here because we needed those going forward with the game. Especially since, the way we planned on originally telling, what deck it was from, was originally not going to put time travel in this red box. It was originally, we were going to have this blue neon around the outside and the inside. Be like, the color of the whatever faction it was. So, I think blue's time travel, purple is cyberpunk, green is sci-fi military, where I think it's gray for machines, and I think it's white for aliens kind of thing. And number one, aliens and machines being so close, that will make it confusing right there. But number two is we needed a way to show what card was going to win and what not. whose control was it? And
Mm-hmm.
in the end, we needed the border for that. So it's like, okay, we're not going to be able to use the border for the deck type, so we need to add in another section to put the deck type, that it is, whether it's time travelers or machines or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was analyzing going forward and everything because we need to, you know, plan enough, but not plan the next set. We need to not work on the next set. We need to make sure that we do not box ourselves in a corner that the next set
Mm-hmm.
screws up the game,
Yep.
or that we just can't make a next set. And I ran into an issue with that, and we needed this extra box where we're putting the groups and everything.
Yep. And remember, like, for people watching this, stuff like color, symbology, these are all affordances. These are all aspects that you can use in order to help improve the UI of your game. And it takes time to do it just right. Like we were saying, again, like I can't stress this point enough. I think we'll be going to wrap things up though. But you cannot look at the finished version of UI and that's it. Like it takes a lot of time and a lot of iteration. As Thorne is saying right there, it takes a lot of work to get something to look simple. And is often that dividing point between, developers who have trouble selling their games and the games that do really well. And like we are saying, every game out there, whether it's something like Undertale to, I don't know, Dark Souls, pick any game, that UI has always will always have gone through multiple iteration points to get to that element. And this is another reason why a lot of developers like sequels, because you don't really need to change the UI for a sequel unless you add in brand new elements to it. But again, it's kind of like half your work is already done at that point.
Yeah, well, not half, but some
Yeah, some measure of it.
good bit. And to Thorn, I mean, this UI was not good to begin with. I mean, you've seen the original. The original looked very meme worthy and was, and I've just iterated on it and iterated on it and iterated on it, and none of this is hard. Like 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 making a straight line of pixels right here, making another straight line of pixels, and then filling that in. I mean, that's not hard, kind of thing. Making a stop sign shape here that is even on all sides, not hard, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Making it's a now I forgot the dang term.
Diegetic again, or
No, an hourglass.
mm-hmm.
Making an hourglass, that's a little bit harder, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Making readable text, not hard.
But getting it all to the point where it not only looks presentable, but it fits with the design of your game, that's another story entirely.
It takes lots of iteration, bit by
Mm-hmm.
bit. And the problem with your UI, Thorn, is that you didn't iterate on it. I mean, I have been iterating on this for many, many months.
Yeah.
But not just this. Like, if we go over here and look at this, that's probably not going to fit on the screen. Can I do something about that?
And to Thorne's point there, it's the same thing what a lot of people say about marketing. It's not sexy or fun to post Twitter links all day or to email people to review your game.
Yeah, it is not fun. At least not for me, anyway.
Me neither.
Is that good right there?
I think that gets most of it.
Let me downsize it a little bit.
But at the end of the day, it is a necessary evil that you have to do as a developer. And if you can't do it, then this is why people who excel at UI and UX design are really worth their weight in gold.
Yeah. Now then, if you look at the card and everything, I have just taken parts of that basically and integrated into everything. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
this corner. Can you see my mouse now or no?
No, I can't.
Okay, if you look in the couple different corners of the big card, you can see that little perforated little art right there.
Mm-hmm.
I just took that, and you see the square cards. I took that and slightly modified it into a sharper corner there. And it's the same piece of art, just slightly edited into there.
Mm-hmm.
The stats are the exact same in both areas of the card.
Mm-hmm.
The little circuitry running behind the small cards are the exact same. It's just got a smaller square shape to
Mm-hmm.
it that I did do a different outline, but the outline is again copy and pasted basically from the original kind of thing. Now then, if you look at the card back, you can see yet again copy and pasting that UI. And basically, what I did was I just took the outline from the original and I cut it. I put it on a different layer, and then I flipped it so that it would look like it's flipped over, kind of
Yep.
thing. And then I started designing the card back. Now the card back was different. That was a really artistic project. That was not really UI design, but I mean it's technically sort of UI design in a way, but technically not. But like we're not going to get into that because that's a different experience entirely. But
Mm-hmm.
like the UI is just copy and paste. If you look over here at the energy cards that are still in development right here,
Mm-hmm.
you can see that gray background that have just got filled in. You can see this flat shape here,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see that I've copied and pasted the UI and modified it just slightly to get us the proper shape here.
And the
If you
same, and I think again another major point. Everything looks unified. It looks
uh,
like everything belongs on screen. And as a quick little tangent, I just want to say, as somebody who's been making more use of Photoshop, figuring out how to turn things, flip them 180 degrees or flip them horizontal has been very helpful for me with my thumbnails.
oh yeah,
But again, this is ultimately one of the goals of a good UI. Is it clean? Can it teach, or does it give the player all the information they need? And does it all look like it belongs? Again, it's that presentation that is such a big point. And one of the things that we usually see is that if a developer gets one of those points, the other ones are just going to come just merely by the process of iterating and getting it all working.
right. Now then, this is not like a current, like our current update. But let me point out some problems here that I show you.
Mm-hmm.
Is down here at the bottom, look at your hand, right?
Yeah.
You can see that you can see the mana cost for the card on the end.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones that are
They're
deeper in
being
your
blocked.
hand, you can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the newer version here, I have it completely sticking out, and the name is underneath, so that now
Mm-hmm.
that will stick out,
Yep.
kind of thing, and not run into this problem here and get covered up. Another issue in I didn't point this out before, but you can see over here with the where it says turn timer and everything.
Yeah.
That is again just copy and pasted from the other one with a solid color underneath it, and I need to add another shade in there and break that up a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is not proper because it doesn't show your opponent's points. It only shows your points and the turn timer, and it needs to show your opponent's points. And also, it is too small of a font. I need a larger font in there and a better looking, visually appealing font in there.
Yep.
And same thing goes here with the intern. It's the exact same art, just I recolored it red because it's something that needs to grab your attention,
Mm-hmm.
and red grabs your attention compared
Yeah.
to everything else.
Yeah. Again, like we said, the use of colors is a very important point when it comes to UI design, and that's another hour-long conversation. Oh, I know my mic just went out there for a second, but as I was saying, colors is a very important point or a very another useful tool when it comes to this UI design. As
Yeah,
a my headset just
you,
went got a jump
your
scare there.
your mic is going pretty nuts right now because it sounds
Yeah,
like you went through a voice changer.
mm,
And you're super deep voice now.
damn. Hope it's better now.
No, or maybe
Uh,
yes, but
mm, all right. Yeah, I'm glad I have to find a headset there. I think it's the headset that's acting up. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I'll have to cut that part when I'm editing this.
Well, it's still going on right now.
Mm-mm. Could also be my voice being deep too. Test test.
It sounds like you're doing.
Mm,
My voice is very deep right now. That's what it kind of
great.
sounds like. It sounds like you're
Uh
purposely making it very, very deep.
oh.
I think it just returned.
Okay, good.
No,
Well,
not quite, but
well,
it's a little bit better.
but while my voice is hopefully somewhat back. Oh, good. Well, that's gonna be a fun thing to have to fix. But while I'm dealing with this, again, color is another major point that you can make use of for your design. But that may be a good sign to wrap things up, unless any other topics you want to bring up.
Um, I think the key. Well, I want to reiterate on this is iteration. Iteration is absolutely key. You can make the worst looking UI possible. I mean, the UI, for let me find it again. This UI looks completely horrible. Everything looks horrible about this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is exactly the first iteration. And this has not been, deleted and started over or anything like that. This card, these cards, well, I mean, technically the card back got started over on, but the card front have not been started over. They have just evolved into this. I mean, iteration on them. The card back got started over, but the card front did not. That was just purely iteration, iteration, iteration. And you need good feedback on your iterations. It doesn't even have to be in the game. I mean, like we haven't had a running part of the running game for a while. Since basically Josh played it, that was around the last time we had anything new added to the gameplay kind of thing, and wasn't able to add these into the game, and just got feedback on them just from looking at them, because you can look at this, you can look at any of these proxy screenshots, these setup screenshots kind of thing, these fake screenshots, and see pretty much what you need to see in order to get feedback from other people. So feedback and iteration is like the key to making a good UI design. I mean, like, you don't have to be the most artistic person in the world. You don't even have to be an artistic person in the world. You just have to listen to feedback, do stuff. And I would say go on the internet, find examples of stuff like the the whole idea for the little lacerations part up here in the corner, this, you probably can't see it that way, but the corner lacerations, where that idea came from originally. Let me see if I can find it.
Hopefully my voice is sounding a little bit better.
It's about the same.
Oh no.
It sounds like you became an ogre or something.
Nuts.
Actually, what it sounds like is like it slowed down your speech.
Oh, good.
Like you're just slightly slower kind of thing. I'm not finding it. Maybe it's over here. I'm not finding it, sadly. I really want to find that. So many folders.
Maybe this will do it.
Oh, I found it. Okay, here we go. Picture of Mega Man here. A little, I don't know if this is fan art or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But can you see that? Can you see those corners?
Mm-hmm.
The lacerations and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying anything? Because I can't hear you.
Yep, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Oh, I see. Discord. 1 second. But Discord had to adjust it.
Hello?
Uh-oh. Test, can you guys hear me? Okay, they can hear me. I know. Let me adjust things really fast. I think I see the problem. Discord, when I adjusted the setting, it probably is not recognizing the mic. Test.
I think I heard you.
Test.
There we go.
Yeah, what I bet happened was, when I changed the audio quality, it probably changed. Discord didn't recognize it.
But you can see here the little slashes here, this little serration here in this Mega Man UI, as well as the fat part. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see where I got the inspiration there for Project Triad.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. I was like, okay, they're doing sort of a neons around the outside, like added the corner bits. They're thicker, and then added the little, lacerations, and I went for some.
Oh, it really went out. All right, test. All right.
Yeah, good now.
I think we gotta wrap things up now.
But iteration, find inspiration from every different place. Like, look up UIs, look up all kinds of different UIs, get them for inspiration, use them for inspiration, and just find a way, find what is best for your game based off of that, and just simply iterate. Mm-hmm. Take inspiration from every place you can. Google, whatever search you want to use, find stuff to inspire you that pushes your UI to the next level, both in functionality and in visual appeal.
Yep. All right. Hopefully, my voice is back to somewhat normal. But I think we'll wrap things up for this week. I'm gonna have to do some shopping for headsets. At least I get like that 30-day return period, so at least I can test them out and see which one works the best. I don't think I
Unless you want to
want.
be Barry.
What was that?
Unless you want to be Barry.
I don't think I want a wireless headset because I heard those are extra heavy. I don't need a heavy thing on my head while I'm trying to have these conversations.
Yeah.
But
I think you should probably go for a standalone mic with whatever headset or, like it doesn't even have to be a headset. I think some earbuds kind of thing. That's what I'm using. I'm using a professional mic and a pair of really cheap earbuds kind of thing that cost, I think, like $2 or something.
we'll see. Alright, but we're going to end things here for this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning in whether you're watching this live or recorded. You can follow me on Twitter at GWBison. We have our Discord and Patreon link down below. Where can people find you at, Shark?
Well, you should be able to find me on Discord, and you'll get to see lots more of this and get to talk to me. And, we have our dev chats once a month on there. And you can also find me on Twitter. And you'll get to see, lots of the stuff. Of course, if you're on our Discord, you'll get to see it first. But, Twitter gets to see it second. And you can also find our YouTube channel, which hopefully we'll be making a video as soon as I'm recovered enough to be able to make one kind of thing. On, and show off some of Project Triad and show the first video besides the one you made, Josh, on Project Triad. The first video on our channel about Project Triad and, the official, it exists moment for YouTube. Although, technically your video's out there already. But, you can find all those things, and they'll be down there and right now, live or recorded. And, that's where you can find me.
All right. So I think with that, we are going to end things. I'll be back later tonight for our regular game streams. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, whereas in the art and science of games. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you all next time. Take care.